Hey everyone, I hope you had an amazing holiday and a happy new year. Today we are going to revel about Real Housewives of Potomac season 7 episode 12 titled Drop the Mic. And the mic definitely dropped just like the ball dropped the other day. And it's safe to say that the clownery is definitely in full effect at this point. It ain't adding up. So let's go ahead and get into it. And how rude. So rude of me. I apologize. I forgot to tell you, welcome back to my Revel channel. So yes, welcome back. And let's go ahead and get into it. Karen and Ray are at the Improv DC to get a walkthrough before her live show. And side note, I gotta go on a little tangent because this episode only gave us so many scenes here. But shout out to the Improv because I go there a lot, not in DC. I go to the Houston one or different ones like that. But they're definitely known for housing a lot of comedians. So I understand why she chose this prominent space. But Karen mentions that you have to crawl before you walk. And she goes down a list of what she will and will not do at her live show. We all know that this is a dig at the bandits at this point, but I'll get into that a little later in the episode. Karen wants to discuss what this event is, and she mentions that this is what she does. This is her thing. And Ray is there to support her, but he shades her a little bit by saying, you know, whatever that is. And Karen says she knows what it is, and she asks Matt to go ahead and take it away. Matt tells us what the event is about, but it seems like Karen really doesn't know what it is about herself because production had to ask her if it was her idea or was it Matt's idea, and Karen says,
idea to do the show, or was it more yours?
Oh, it was mine. But let's be very clear. Matt produces the show for me.
She mentions that during one of the topics they would discuss finding love, and she mentions the Grindr app, you know, whether it's on the Grindr or not. Ray is confused. He doesn't know what the Grindr app really is. He says, you know, is it underground or not? And I thought that was funny, but I don't expect Ray to really know what that is. Then we see Mia and G, and they are getting their kids ready for bed, and Jacqueline comes over, and I'll be honest, this whole scene was super weird, and it showed us how they had to do what they mentioned in the last episode. They had to get their stories together because when Jacqueline makes it there, they're getting their wine, you know, they joke that this is the gentleman's wine, and G jokes that this is the wine that is only for him, and then they do a couple of little other jokes there, and Jacqueline says she needs a gentleman in her life, and Mia says clearly because according to everyone else, her gentleman is Jacqueline's, and she lets us know that Jacqueline is a sister wife without the benefits. They go to the living room, and it's a simple conversation about how it's weird that Jacqueline is sitting in between her and G. And why does it matter now when y'all didn't have an issue with her sitting by G when y'all were at lunch? Why are y'all making that a thing? So we can tell that this is that damage control that I was just talking about. IDK, I'm just trying to figure some things out. Then the girls tell G that everyone thinks they're in a three-way. They talk about why they shower together and how that's really not a big deal to them. Most importantly in this scene, we see where they clarify on what Mia meant about if she's winning and she's in a Porsche, then she's a bad friend if her friend isn't, or, you know, something along those lines. I'm probably wording it wrong here. But we also see them discuss and get clarity on if G really bought Jacqueline's car.
Income qualified to get the vehicle?
Yes.
Did you help me put a down payment on it because you knew that at that moment I was spending a lot of money to get out of this unhealthy relationship and you wanted to give me a cushion because you love me?
She loves you.
And okay, and you don't love me.
You do lose it sometimes.
You did not buy it, and it matches what Robin said in that last episode. He bought the car, put it in your name. IDK, why y'all were trying to talk in circles when Giselle asked that, because who really cares? That was a simple question. I will say that when Mia said if I'm winning thing and, you know, my friend gotta be winning type of thing, I took it as if I'm winning, why wouldn't I make sure my friend is winning or something along those lines, or they have the same resources? But clearly she meant it literally. Ashley and her Pretty Little Thing clip, and y'all, why they say Pretty Little Thing? Because I was literally thinking of the fashion line. But they're having a girls' night out, and we learned that they are going through some of the same things, and their group started mainly to encourage each other. Giselle joins the women and asks if they are hooking Ashley up with other people, and they basically say they really don't need to help in that department because people stay in Ashley's DM. Giselle says she hasn't seen the women since the spring party, and this was a way to get them into discussing what happened that day. It's very clear on that. One of the ladies said that the tea is getting getting spilled regardless. And y'all, why did I know this was gonna be some BS? Because Deborah basically runs down the story the same way Ashley told it at the winery. And side note, baby girl was too jovial to say that this is what happened when she knew she was lying, and production came through with it because the footage proves that he wasn't looking at you. So shout out to production, because all year y'all have been on it. In one of my previous recaps, I did say IDK about this story. I didn't want to say anything until I seen the footage because too many people have said things that is not landing. And I guess I was right again, because ma'am, this did not do what y'all thought it would do. And it's clear that the other friend was right. The truth would be spilled, and it looks like everyone sitting at this table is targeting Candiace's marriage. I also believe if this was a real thing, production would have shown this, because we know in the past, if they have the footage, they will show it. And if they don't have the footage, but they have it picked up on the mics, they will have that as well. All the footage shows is Deborah speaking to him first. She mentions her name. He says hello. He mentions his name. She says, "Hi, my husband's a Chris." He said, "Yeah, it's a common name." He did not say, "Yeah, you know, all Chris's are alike." So Deborah, you added words to his mouth. And truth be told, the way he spoke, it sounded like he really wasn't trying to be bothered. Then this girl sat there and said, "Happy Eddie came over and he was very flirty."
Stop it. Get some help.
Just because someone smiled doesn't mean they are flirting. She needs to learn the difference. Maybe he was happy to see Chris. Maybe he was just happy to have a blessed day and to be living. Maybe he's happy to be at the nice event. There's so many other things that could have happened for him smiling. I doubt it was you. Ashley says that all of her friends witnessed the incident, and she says they are not liars. Well, Ashley, survey says it looks like they aren't truthers. But then they discuss how Candiace will react to the news and if Ashley should tell Wendy. We all know she went ahead and told Wendy, because in the next scene we see Wendy at home and she discusses this with Eddie. But before I get into that, Wendy is not used to sitting around at home and doing nothing. We learned that her sons are also getting fitted for their football uniform. Side note, I just did a review on their Confessional, so make sure you check that out. But I will say, forget which look I chose as Wendy's best, because this Confessional here is everything and I like it way more. And I can say the same thing for Giselle. We see this Confessional later. I definitely like this look on her more. But back to the topic.
Back to this that had a lot to say about me the other day in the
I know I'm throwing in all these little jokes and little clips, but they fit perfectly, and I'm trying to help this episode because it was not that many scenes. But we see Wendy talk to Eddie. She told him about her lunch with Ashley and how Deborah said this and that, and she lets him know that Deborah said he was flirting with her because he was smiling.
Oh, boy, I can't smile no more.
And listen, they sound crazy. Just because somebody smiled doesn't mean they're flirting. It just is what it is. But then we see the bandits and Mia go to lunch. She lets them know why they haven't seen her in a while, and she tells them what is going on with her son. I don't want to get too much in that because, you know, it's growing men stuff and I don't know nothing about that. Then Giselle mentions how the OGs hung out, and Karen told everyone about what Mia said about her and Jacqueline in that previous episode about, you know, her looking at her and stuff. Mia explains what it really was, and Robin asks if Jacqueline was itching, you know, for different stuff, and Mia says no. Giselle also asks why she didn't tell them about Peter and his girlfriend and that whole thing, and Mia says it's because it didn't come up. She lets them know that
she never slept before him. She just played with him. Foreplay. Oh. That was actually on our wedding night.
What?
At the bachelor party that I crashed.
What?
Mia says she isn't telling Karen anything else and alludes that Karen wouldn't like it if she told them why she doesn't like Sharice. They want to know, well, why doesn't she like Sharice? Mia won't say. Honestly, y'all, if she's not gonna say why she doesn't like Sharice, why did you bring it up at the table? Then we're at Karen's event and it looks super nice. Karen says she has her fan base and calls them the
I got my hive too. It's called the Ladons.
But then we see Giselle is the first person to make it there, and someone mistakes her for Karen, and I'm like, sir, they look completely different. Everyone else makes it. Ashley brings Deborah with her to the event, and it's a setup, and Giselle knows this. We see Candiace eating before the event, and I get it, because you don't know what the food is gonna be like when you get there. It can either be nasty, or it could not be ready, or etc. Then we see her mom ask what we all ask before we go anywhere.
How long is this gonna last about?
Can you hang late?
And they agreed to come back by 12. We see Giselle ordering food for the table, and Mia mentions if her breasts pop out, will Jacqueline help her? Well, of course she would, Mia. If y'all help each other do a lot of other things, why don't you think she would help you if you had that type of thing? But then when they begin to discuss the video Sharice posted in their group message, and Karen says Sharice did that to get her attention because she doesn't mess with her. We also learned that Sharice wasn't invited to the event, but the women feel she should have been able to come to the event, or they should have, she should have been like that +1 or whatever. Ashley brings up the meeting with Karen and what was said about Mia looking down there, and Jacqueline says, oh, when I had a y'all get what I'm talking about there. And I'm like, girl, I get why Mia didn't want to say what it was, but clearly, Mia, you weren't qualified to even check that anyway. Like, you knew what it was before you had to get that flashlight or whatever. But we see Robin give Candiace a heads up about like, hey, that lady over there, she's the one who said that about your husband. And Candiace looking like, who? That's Deborah. They have this eye-to-eye moment, and it's clear they're like, there's no way. And Candiace says she doesn't acknowledge Sesame Street characters. Karen events start and production gives us this silent movie-like aesthetic, and it was super funny. None of the ladies know what Karen is gonna do. A comedian comes out to hype everything up and tell the jokes. Jasmine Masters is there to sing and so forth. We get the sizzling topics. During the topics, we see Mia ask,
what do you do when you share something with a friend of yours and she runs her mouth and tells her friend?
Everyone knew it was about Karen, and Karen says this isn't Mia's show and that whatever she said, it had to be the truth. Mia says, why do people get upset when they get called out? And I'm like, Mia, this is funny because you do the same thing. But back to the show. The show is nice, but I will say, Karen, you were taking all these notes and made it seem like it was going to be different from the Bandits event, and it was basically the same thing. They had a comedian, you had one. Their comedian hosted, but you seemed to be the host instead because you were up there for like 29 of the 75 minutes, and production made sure to show that. When the Bandits were up there for the whole time, from what we were able to see, both of you had the questionnaires and so forth. Karen, you just chose a smaller venue, like I stated, which does sound like a better idea because social media and so forth, and people look at the stuff of aesthetics versus everything else. So I do think it looked good for her to have a packed house and so forth, but it was not that different. We also see Ashley do what she does and says she hasn't introduced Candiace and Deborah. She introduces them, and Deborah runs down the story again to Candiace. She is still lying. Mia says, oh, this is the one, and everyone knew it was BS. Mia says in her confessional that Deborah is basically not on Candiace level. She gives them a little rating and so forth when they're talking about the looks. Candiace didn't give them what they were looking for. We see that Ashley comes back and tries to start all this back up again and asks, why are you dismissing my friend? Because y'all are full of it. And Candiace sees this and she says in her confessional,
why is Ashley insisting that I talk to Sesame Street? Because Ashley is a messy...
Now, I know this is outside of the show, but I seen this video on social media after the episode the other night, and Deborah, this did not give what you thought it was giving. It gave cringy. You did a little too much. But y'all have been going in on her on social media, and normally I try to stay away from talking about people's looks, but who y'all saying she looks like? When I go look it up, I was like, dang, I could see it a little bit. But that was the episode. It wasn't that much. It was a couple of scenes. Hopefully I found some funny stuff to put in there. And I will say that at the end production, y'all made sure y'all showed the clips, because this has been way too many filler episodes at this point. I know you had to let stuff die down a bit, but they're letting us know that next week is gonna be full of the dramatics. So let me know what you think of my review, and I will see you all next time.